Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank, coming to you from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio. I'm Brad Berger, along with my co-host Dan Whedon, and our guest today is Gary Tashjian of Darwin's Natural Pet Products. We just had an intriguing and fun conversation with Gary. To listen to the entire podcast, visit shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle, or now through iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can still subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. We are always interested in your feedback, so please do not forget to rate us. So, Gary, one of the things that I learned on the podcast was kind of a difference between you and your competitors. And I would love for you to explain, what's different about what you do from many of the companies that I might see or hear advertised on cable TV and radio.
Yeah. I think you're referring to companies that sell what I would call fresh food, and as is ours. And what I think makes us different from virtually all the other ones that I think you're referring to is that our food is raw, whereas their diets are cooked typically. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with cooked food, our approach is that the closer you are to a pet's ancestral diet, the better. And that an ancestor in the case of a dog being a wolf, and that calls for raw meals. You never saw any wolves sitting around the campfire their meals. So I mean, their digestive tracts are designed to process raw meat and vegetables, and so the closer we can be to that, the better, we think.
Yeah, I think the only thing I've ever seen is wolves playing poker, or maybe that was dogs.
Maybe it was Wile E. Coyote. I don't know. Maybe Wile E. Coyote's part of that. But I guess that leads to my question, Gary. Growing up, and probably until I met you a couple of years ago, I thought even if it sounded or was advertised as healthy, I thought kibble. And I would maybe think canned dog food, wet and that type of thing. Talk about, for those who may have thought exactly like me, why the raw dog food from that science perspective, why is that so important to the health of your animal?
It starts with the premise that the less we do to our food, the better. I mean, the whole food movement, there's a lot of parallels to human nutrition that that we're still learning a lot about the nutrient, what the nutrients in food are. People talk now about the microbiome of the gut and how these micronutrients that they never knew were even important are vital to your digestion and ultimately your health. Well, the same is true of our pets. That we're learning more and more about the science, and the more we learn about the science, the more it leads us back to do as little as possible to your pet's food and keep those nutrients as much as possible in their, I'll call them, natural or native form, rather than having to process them and then add them back synthetically. That the less you do to the food, the better it's going to be.
So Gary, one of the things that we love to talk about on the Shrimp Tank is what I refer to as the leap. That kind of spark or that moment that caused you to move from, a stable corporate job to entrepreneurship. So maybe you can talk about two things about that. Is what was that spark, right? And what was it like?
Okay, yeah. I think I always knew that I aspired to run my own business, and part of it was my first job out of college. I was a stockbroker, actually. With Merrill Lynch in my case, and great opportunity on a lot of levels, learn about investment, learn about sales, but it also gave me the opportunity to talk to a number of people, see what they did for a living, and then I got to actually look at their investment portfolio. and I kind of quickly learned that the guys that had the nice corner offices with the big corporations, they did okay. But the ones who really did well were the ones that had the modest little, wood paneled office or whatever in a nondescript building, but were doing their own thing. So
Sure.
I kind of knew even early on that I wanted to do that. And I guess the arc of my career was getting bigger and bigger jobs in smaller and smaller companies until, I finally felt it was time to make the leap and do my own thing. So I was looking for a business to buy because starting up a company was just too hard. I mean, who would be foolish enough to try that? And I looked for companies that I had search criteria, and I was looking literally for a couple of years and not finding anything that just, resonated with me or met my criteria. And this idea had been gestating during that whole period of, because I saw what the impact of this kind of diet on my own pets was. But whenever I would talk to my friends about it, they would say, I get why it makes sense nutritionally, but I don't have time to cook for myself, let alone my dog. And it's too expensive to buy in a store. So I just kept thinking there's an opportunity there. And my background had been in direct marketing. So, that if we go direct, if we can bypass the middleman, that there might be a way to make it convenient and affordable for people to feed this way. So it was a little bit of a calling and a little bit of just, I've been trying to find a business to buy for so long and just not getting anywhere. And finally, a friend of mine said, if you just started the business 2 years ago when you started looking for a business, think of where you'd be by now.
Right. Yeah.
And I was thinking, and I could be another 2 years looking for a business to buy and not finding it. Make the leap and try it. I did.
Awesome. So once again, this is just a taste of what you can expect by listening to the entire podcast. Visit shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle or listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can also subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. And please do not forget to rate us. Thanks to all of our Shrimp Peeler sponsors and to you, our listeners and followers.
And of course, Brad, we want people to call up Gary, just in case they have a dog or a cat, as we found out on the podcast, that wants to get his food. I'm glad that you took that giant leap. Gary, for those out there who's saying, I want to learn more, how do they do it?
The best way to reach us is on our website, darwinspet.com, Darwin's with an S, PET.com. You'll find a lot about us and also a lot of informative articles about raw feeding and about pet nutrition in general.
Well, that's fantastic. And Brad, of course, next week, this was episode 99. Gary will forever be enshrined in 99. But next week, we're doing episode number 100. It's our year in review and kind of in a sense, maybe 100 episodes in review. So you're all going to want to stay tuned to watch that. Because for right now, the hay is in the barn.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.